It's my pleasure to invite over a lady who possesses extensive working knowledge in local economic development, advocacy, stakeholder management. She is currently the volunteer facilitator for the Nigerian Economic Summit Group Agricultural and Food Security Policy Commission that oversees 6 thematic subsectors in the agricultural value chain in Nigeria, and sits as managing partner at Sustainable Economic Advisory and Research Limited, an agricultural rural transformation and advisory company delivering sustainable and value creation programs in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I invite over Miss Gloria Ekpo, the moderator for our next part of the program. Please, a round of applause. Gloria, you're very welcome. You got the mic.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be here because this is what I've been waiting for. I don't mean that, with due respect, I don't mean that other sessions were not interesting. They're quite interesting. But you know how it is when you learn from others who are already in the field doing a lot of things, and you can pose questions and try to get their perspective so that it will help me in my work and it will help us as we sit here. And one thing I want us to always remember is that inadequate access to finance remains a major obstacle to men, women, and young people and many aspiring entrepreneurs, particularly in the rural parts of Northeast Nigeria. It's a recurring theme here. And as highlighted by the previous presenters, recent studies have confirmed that the financing gap for micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises remains enormous. And entrepreneurs of all types and sizes require a variety of financial services, including facilities for making deposits and payments, as well as accessing credit, equity, and guarantees. And to add to this, contextual challenges in the Northeast Nigeria further adds to the structural and behavioral barriers. A gentleman talked about the importance, the issue of interest rates in insurance. And that was one thing I never thought of, because religion plays a role in the way we work with money too. But one thing I want you to put in mind as we go into this session is to know that this session will highlight evidence of the diagnosis of the financial service sector with a view to identifying bottlenecks as well as the challenges faced by farmers and SMEs in accessing finance in Northeast Nigeria. It will also showcase efforts of commercial and public sector institutions who are contributing to improving access to finance for smallholder farmers and microenterprise owners in the sector, in the area, in the region. It will also showcase efforts of this program, the Rural Resilience Activity, in improving access to finance through strategic partnerships with financial service providers and potentials of the Northeast market system, because it means that this is a marketing platform too. There's a lot to get from here, and we can network here. And this is done with a view to attracting new financial service providers, as I said earlier on, and encouraging existing ones to invest in the financial services sector. And before we leave, we hope to be able to propose state-specific roadmaps and strategies to improve access to finance in the Northeast and at the national level, so we can upscale to other parts of Nigeria. And to achieve this feat, may I introduce a team of esteemed professionals, sorry, I have to open my book, esteemed professionals who are here with us to share their expert perspective on these issues. May I start with the group head, Agric Finance for Sterling Bank, Mr. Olushola Obikanye, who is he's a group head of Agriculture and Solid Minerals Finance at Sterling Bank PLC. He has over two decades in the role of spanning agricultural finance, product development, corporate strategy, finance analysis, credit administration, and corporate project management, amongst other roles in the bank. He has been involved in several agricultural business projects, ensuring quality and scheduled delivery of mandates within the triple constraints of time, cost, and scope in order to meet the client's needs. He holds a degree in agriculture and postgraduate degrees in credit management and a doctorate and MBA in credit management from esteemed universities. Please, could we welcome Dr. Obikanye? Thank you. Welcome, sir. Our second esteemed professional is well known. She's a woman I really do admire. And I'm a woman, so don't blame me. When I say women, I do that. Her name is Mrs. Edna Ishaya. She's the founder and managing director of Center for Microenterprise Development, CMD. She's a seasoned trainer, and she has on her several certificates to her credit. She has served as board chair in several companies within and outside Nigeria. Mrs. Ishaya holds a BSc and an MSc in biology, and she established a Center for Microenterprise in 2002 and has seen expanded reach to all the states in the Northeast Nigeria. Please let's welcome Mrs. Edna Ishaya. Thank you. A round of applause, please. Dr. Asongo Abraham is our next esteemed professional. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Standard Microfinance Bank Limited, a leading state microfinance bank operating in Adamawa State in the northeast of Nigeria. He's a senior finance sector professional with over 14 years' experience. He has made notable contributions in the financial sector and community projects in the state. He was also instrumental to the introduction of agricultural financing for smallholder farmers recovering from insurgency attacks in the region. His first degree is in statistics and computer science, and he holds a holder of a master's degree and a PhD in operational research. Please let's welcome him to the podium. Toyin Albert is the Executive Director, Payment Services at Kippa. And Kippa is one of the fast-growing fintech startups offering digital business and financial management solutions for African SMEs. Toyin is a seasoned fintech veteran in Nigeria with over 20 years of industry experience, as well as a deep understanding of the market and regional landscape. Her growing contributions to the fintech industry has earned her ample recognitions. She holds a degree in computer science and a master's degree in business administration from prestigious universities. In her role in Kippa, Toyin leads the payment service team to drive the growth of Kippa's payment solutions for SME in Africa. Please let's welcome Toyin to the podium. The managing director of FCMB, Yemisi Edun, is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria and a CFA charter holder. She's also an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, an associate member of the Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, a member of the Information Systems Audit and Control USA, and a certificate information system auditor. She holds a bachelor degree in chemistry from a prestige university here in Nigeria and a master's degree in accounting and finance. She's now the managing director of FCMB. She sends her apologies that she will not be able to come. She's very busy. She has some things she could not come and get out of, but she's ably represented by Mr. Kudzai Gumuyu, the head of Agrifinance in the bank. Let's welcome him. I wouldn't say last. Women never come last. She's a heavyweight. Dr. Oluwatomi Eromosele is a development economist with over 10 years of research and consulting experience in economic development, entrepreneurship, financial inclusion, microfinance, program design, business development, and operational strategies. She's passionate about evidence-based policy making, especially how research insights and data can be used to improve human lives and service delivery. Her research has been used to support the ongoing revision of the National Financial Inclusion Strategy and the CBN framework for promoting financial inclusion for women. Please, let's make a do and welcome Dr. Oluwatomi Eromosele to the podium. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Welcome to this podium and to this panel. Let me set the ball rolling on this discussion point. Let me speak to the last person who came on board, Dr. Oluwatomi Eromosele from EFINA. Doctor, should I call you doctor? Toby, okay, Tomi. Tomi, according to your research report, 54% of the adult population in Northeast Nigeria are financially excluded. And we also heard from your esteemed colleague that 9% only engage in digital payments, have access to digital payments. And we also know that there's a lot we have to learn from your research findings. Now, our question this afternoon is, what measures would you encourage the financial sector to put in place to expand the supply of financial services and increase lending to smallholder farmers in the region through digital technology?
Thank you very much. So I think, like we said, 54% exclusion rate in 2018, and as the data shows, we've made some progress. So in 2020, we recorded 50% of the adult population are financially excluded. And like the data also showed, we have farmers, women, the youth population who are overrepresented in that group. In terms of what providers can do in leveraging technology, I want to say first that technology is only an enabler, right? So in providing financial services. So the services themselves have to be right, and then technology can enable that. In terms of reaching farmers specifically, because you mentioned farmers, we need to understand who they are. We need to understand what their characteristics are. For credit also, which you mentioned, we can see that about 2% of farmers are borrowing from banks, but 41% are borrowing from non-formal institutions or channels. So 11% are borrowing from informal or cooperatives or associations, right? So that is one thing that we should leverage. Technology is, like I said, an enabler. It shouldn't disrupt, it should come to enable what's already being done. And I think some of the speakers have spoken to issues around social norms or culture. We did a survey in 2019 that showed that really it's not religion, because we have Muslims everywhere, even in the South, but we don't see that same outcome. In fact, the data shows the statistical drivers of financial exclusion are income, education, and trust. So if you look at the characteristics of farmers, income is low, they have low education, trust, which is about perception. So technology has to break those barriers. To improve inclusion of farmers. One thing I would say is that we did a survey last year. We spoke to the financial service providers as well as the farmers. For the financial service providers, they are obviously concerned about the risks that was significantly highlighted today. Risk around low productivity, low profitability. And I think one thing technology can do is to help break those barriers. So, for instance, low productivity. What are the challenges or the things that affect productivity of farmers? What are the factors that affect the profitability of farmers? Because financial service providers have told us they want to go to where, if there is the business case, they want to go there. But currently, I think that's where the donors or the development partners can also come in. We want to see business case for where there is actually, or how to serve farmers. So one thing I think Feed the Future can also do is these business models that we have tested and are working, particularly those models that involve private sector, can we document them and engage with the private sector to demonstrate the business case for serving farmers. But technology, I know, can help reduce the challenges that the farmers are facing, help with distribution as well. We saw today that access is a major barrier, right? So we have financial service agents out there, but again, our data shows that they are not really in the rural areas. And why is that the case? Because even the providers themselves want a business case for the agents, right? So that remains a core factor that we need to address. Finally, I would say that in serving farmers, we should also look at I think I wrote a few things down, any intervention that would serve farmers should also serve them in their clusters or in cooperatives, right? It should also involve a holistic range of products. We can see that access to finance is just one challenge that farmers face. A lot of them, just one shock that they face can lead them to, increase poverty and all of that. So the financial service providers want to be sure that they have a holistic range of services, and then technology that brings all of those providers, a technology that enables those providers to ride on the technology to serve this range of products, I think is what we need. But technology can do that, but it is only an enabler. The products have to be there, the players have to be there, and they have to be designed in a way that they actually meet the needs of the farmers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, what do I hear? I hear that it's an enabler, technology is an enabler, but we must have a business case to make things happen. And we should also promote private sector-driven approach to look at it as a business. Thank you very much. Let me go to a player in the field, someone who's doing a lot of work already there. Madam Edna, you have more than 40,000 men and women under your organization. Now the question I would like to answer is, are they really bankable? And how do they access financial services? And what is the trigger to their inclusion into the financial market?
Thank you very much for these questions. My first response would be, yes, they are bankable. And why do I say so? I'll give you a case study from Yobe State. This happened on Tuesday this week, 2 days ago. A Village Savings and Loans Association did their payout. They had gathered 487,600 in their share savings. Their weekly savings amounted to 168,200, and their emergency social fund was 23,600. So the entire amount that was shared out 2 days ago was 679,400. an average of 27,176 naira per member. These are the kind of numbers we're dealing with. And CMD has 44,000 plus members. We stopped further enrollment in March this year because before we could say feed the future, we had attained 37,000. So we had to put a stop. Before the brakes could really come into force, we had attained 44,000. And so we stopped there. We did an impact survey that just concluded 2 weeks ago, and I'm currently finalizing the report. Part of the questions we asked are you willing to take a loan? 95% said yes. We asked them, what's your preferred method? 29% said cash only. 5% said input only. 65% wanted a product that involved cash and input, which was a shocker for us because we had built our model around input supply, which means we have to go back to the drawing board. There was a question about those who said, I don't want credit. And the reason was, why? 39% said, I don't like loans, which means they are net savers. Not everybody is a borrower. 4.6%, 46%, I beg your pardon, said, I'm scared of a loan. And that speaks to all of us in this house that it's all about inappropriate products. And then 9% gave religion as their reason. Because working in the Northeast, one of the assumptions we had was that religion was a huge factor in the prevention of uptake of financial products. But only 9% of the respondents said religion was the issue. We then wanted to cross-tabulate that. So there was a tricky question about who is your preferred lender? 5.68% said commercial banks. 2.98% said Islamic bank. 5.56% said savings and loans. 85.09% said they wanted CMD. That threw me back. Again, when we started RRA, our intention was be a business services development provider, groom the groups, form them, train them, and hand them to the commercial banks. And I went begging, can you even give me account opening forms? And I was baffled that some commercial banks were asking me to photocopy account opening forms. And I asked them, 2,200 groups, 44,000 members. I've been in conversation with about 4 banks. We started our introductory conversations thanks to the RRA project, and Mark Akpan did a lot of work. Our romance started October. We are still not yet married. Today I was having a conversation with one of them, and I was saying, you have not returned the signed contract to me. He said, no, I have returned it. So I will laugh over it. I asked the question, would you be willing to continue with the Village Savings and Loans Association, which, ladies and gentlemen, is our rudimentary financial service institution? And out of 3,500 respondents, 11 said no. 3,489 said yes, they were willing. So to me, that's the answer you're seeking for. Are they ready to take up products? Yes. Are they ready to do insurance? Yes. We had a focus group discussion about cooler products. I was told that, look, Edna, it's like we're losing you. And I said, let's have a group discussion. And we called some farmers together and had like 18 people come to CMD. And we sat down. The first question they asked Donna He had to pick up the phone and call Pula. A lady asked her, if my maize is doing well and overnight robbers come and steal every crop on the farm, will you cover that? And we had to take a look at each other. They had no problems about doing insurance. And they were from Akko local government, because they are the nearest local government I could reach out to. And they were in the room at that day. We had about 70% Muslim population, male and female. And they were ready to take up insurance, but what risk are you covering? Will you do animals on transit? No, it's too risky. Will you pay me out if I do not fall within the geographical location? No. So, ladies and gentlemen, if we plan to have financial inclusion, I think the first thing we have to do is to recognize that there's a distortion in the market. I've taken a look at the microfinance policy. I believe a believer in the Central Bank of Nigeria, but it is impossible. If CMD wants to actualize the output to say we would become the provider of credit to these farmers, I can't take on a microfinance bank policy. I'm in 3 states. That will require a capital in billions. So it's a no-go area. I go to the cooperative. They yarn me a story that for me to have a federation, I need to be represented in at least 5 geopolitical regions of Nigeria. And I need to be in those regions before they give me the registration. Wow. Which comes first? Should I get approval before I roll out, or roll out before I get approval?
Well,
so if we look at the landscape, we talk about fintech. Fine. I've had a conversation around it. My first analysis of our data, when we hit 20,000, I checked the data. 1,200 members had bank accounts with a particular commercial bank. And I told him, you have the lowest hanging fruit. Can we roll out with these ones? Give them credit. They're ready to go. And we went on a merry-go-round, till date. Around April, they asked me, can you pitch? And I told them, I'm very sorry. I'm not in a good mood. In that week, I had to sign 500 letters to VSLA groups apologizing because CMD could not deliver on dry season financing for them. All the contacts we made, all the partnerships that were brokered, unfortunately, we had to send apology letters. We've started delivering wet season fertilizer. Our stand is the one with the fertilizer out there. When they gave me the first prize for Notore MPK, I was not myself for 48 hours. And then we took a decision that we will not issue loans this year. I had a conversation with 3 people I respect a lot, and each one said, do you want to cause hunger in the land? One was my mom. One was a farmer. He was the head of a group in Bulakyari. And he said, Madam, if you do not give us fertilizer this year, certainly there will be hunger. The other person was one of the dealers we buy products from. And I said, Elijah, I cannot afford to give. Purchase price of Notore MPK was 25,000 naira. How much would I sell it to the farmers? Where would I get the capital to pay about 17 million naira for a trailer? And I have a huge number. So he tells me, he said, we will do whatever we can. As I sit here, we have receivables now adding up to 24 million from May to now of fertilizer inputs we've given. None of it is from a financial institution.
Okay, ma'am.
It's been... Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at that time. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry I had to do that,
sorry.
please. I'm sorry,
No.
but I think
The clock had time, sorry.
No, no, they did not answer. They will answer you today.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But one thing I note,
sorry.
and I know that one of the essence of this platform, as we share our thoughts and experiences, our partners are noting, and I'm sure we'll have very rewarding and very successful discussions, because this is also a platform where we can network. As you're telling us your own story or your experiences, others are listening, and I can see some of them are taking notes. That's why I'm going to call Dr. Abraham, who is also the CEO, who is the COO of Standard Microfinance Bank. And I'm sure you're aware of some of the things she's talking about. But let me ask, I know your organization is operating in Adamawa State, which you also know is in the Northeast. Now, I wonder, with all these issues she's talked about, how are you able to operate and continue to serve the financial needs of farmers? Because there are a lot of bottlenecks, and also looking at the fact that these are communities that are affected by conflict.
Thank you very much. No doubt, Adamawa State, where we operate, one of the states that have been worst hit by insurgency. However, there are strategies we adopt to ensuring that we penetrate to the conflict-affected areas. One of them is we have very good rapport with the communities and community leaders, trying to get information from them on the best areas that are safer and areas that we can deliver our services without much issues. A very good example is just a month ago, we were planning to visit one of the communities, and we discussed with a community leader, which told us that, look, that particular area is not safe. There are still activities of insurgency in that area. And that is how we have been operating, trying to avoid some of those areas. And then another strategy we use to making sure that we reach the conflict areas is we try to hire those indigenes that know the language, know the locations, know the terrain quite well, so in such a way that even if there are issues, they will be able to navigate their way through. And then another strategy also, which we adopt to make sure that every community get access to finance in these locations is we are very close to the customers because of our simplicity of operations and our proximity to them. They take Standard Microfinance Bank as part of them. I'll give you an example. In 2014, when one of the biggest towns in Adamawa was overrun by insurgency, and everybody was running for his or her own life. The target of these people are government infrastructures and financial institutions. So when everybody was running from that city, one of our customers passed through our branch, and instead of him to continue running, he went to risk his life to remove the signboard of our branch in that location. The reason was so that when those guys reach the town, they should not be able to attack that branch. And a few days later, he called that, look, if you go back to this town, don't look for your board. I was the one that removed it when I was running. And you know that almost every financial institution in that town was attacked except our bank because of that singular act. So this is the kind of relationship we have that help us to penetrate in such areas despite the conflict. Also, we try to work hand in hand with the security in those areas, trying to get information on every move we take because we work in remote areas where there are no financial institutions, ensuring that quite a number of the people get access to finance. And then lastly, we as much as possible try to lower some of the requirements that any formal financial institution may need so that nobody is left out. These are the strategies we put in place, ensuring that those conflict areas are not left out in financial inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, I still want to stay with you. Why I'm doing this is because I know that we're all here because of Mexico, and I know that there's a relationship. Could you share with us some of the things you did with Mexico that's helped you there?
Yes, the core or the crucial point of our relationship with Mexico is access to finance. We started in January this year. There are some locations that our presence are not there yet. As a result of our partnership with Mexico, we have been able to reach to farmers in these locations. And from January to date, we have financed over 3,000 farmers in these areas, talking about over 200 million naira.
I think that deserves a round of applause. Yeah.
And there are much more that we have profiled because it's a one-year partnership from now to December. Our target is to ensure that by December, 16,000 people, that is 12,500 farmers and 3,500 microenterprise should be financially included and to have access to financial services, which was not there before. These are the things we're doing.
Thank you very much for that. Mr. Kudzai, thank you for coming once again. Your bank has presence in the Northeast states. What's your experience working with smallholder farmers in this region when you think of, when taking into consideration some of the issues Madam Edna spoke about? She said she went to commercial banks. And what opportunities do you see in deepening financial services through technological channels and looking at how we could address some of our core needs?
Thank you. If you look at what you indicated by presence in the northeastern states, I think you're talking of brick and mortar. Yes, we have, but we all know that smallholder farmers do not live where most of these brick and mortar branches are, but they are in remote areas. So what we have done as a bank is to try and embed the bank inside the community. And we do that by rolling out agency banking platforms that engage locals in those communities to become the agent for the bank. We have seen that that creates a lot of trust because the face of the bank becomes the face of the community, people inside that very community. And we also have seen a surprising uptake of services by these smallholder farmers. And if you look at, if we are to roll out branches, it will be very expensive to do that. But if you roll out agencies, it's cheaper for us, it's easier. The trust issues are also dealt with because the bank uses community people who live and reside in those communities.
Okay.
So we also have seen that despite all the problems, insecurity, there is still a lot of economic activity that's happening in those communities. And if that is tapped in a way that makes the bank profitable, that makes the farmer profitable, it becomes easier to do, it becomes sustainable for everyone to actually engage. So we have seen, even with our partnership with Mexicorps, our numbers in terms of onboarding of smallholder farmers onto the banking platform, well, most of these were not financially included. But because of our partnerships, we've been able to engage a lot of them, and they are now financially included. And it also presents a lot of more opportunities where we can now embed services on those banking platforms that we are rolling out in those communities. The agent banker also becomes an agent for a mechanization service provider, can also become an agent for a fertilizer retailer, a chemical, agrochemical retailer. And that also improves in terms of profitability for the agents that we are rolling out. So we're seeing a lot of uptake, profitability, as well as managing the insecurity aspect. He talked about them having physical branches being attacked, but if you are inside the community and your face is the face of the person in the community, you solve those number of challenges as well. So in terms of digital platforms, they are enabling us to bank people who would otherwise not be able to bank. We also are able to give services where those services, the farmers might not have been able to access them. So that is what I would say. And we are also leveraging, as I say, our relationship with Mercy Corps, with NGOs, with aggregators, with even some insurance companies to roll out projects and products to the smallholder farmers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. What do I hear? I hear the importance of trust. Trust is key when you're working using the village agency banking model. You get to know who you're, and the actors, they have multiple roles, and collaboration also works for you. Now I wonder, Sterling Bank, Doctor, in your own case, what model is currently driving your delivery of loan facilities to smallholder farmers in Nigeria? Because we've heard a lot about what you're doing in the north. And what are the prospects for scaling this model to increase your reach in the northeast?
Thank you very much. Well, let me just set a tone to this. And of course, that is at the risk of rehashing what we would call the obvious. The challenges that the smallholder and the small-scale farmer faces, especially in the area under consideration today, is kind of generic. They are myriad, as you will know, but there are three important ones: access to finance, access to market, and somewhere in between finance and market, you need capacity building. Now, for us, I don't know if my data is stale, but in a $500 billion economy, Q4 2021, agri contributed 30% to the national GDP. Is it Q3 or Q4? Now, GDP is cash running in the system. 30% of the theoretical 500 billion will give you 150 billion US dollars. About that. Now, that's what banks want. They've identified the money, they know it is in there. The fund, 150 billion that you have, I think just about 40% or slightly less of that can be traced to what you will call structured entities within that particular sector. So the rest of them are locked out there with the smallholder and the small scaler. Now, I know that many of us know this. I have come to this point to buttress the fact that banks, financial institutions, as indeed other business entities, we continue to explore ways of having a piece of the action that is going on in that unstructured block. And so banks will continue to look for ways. And to now come down to the specific question, what we have tried to do in accessing this laudable, mutually beneficial opportunity for all stakeholders is to, in the face of all that had been known and said, leverage clusters, associations, cooperatives, and clubs, engage them to be able to reach the individual farmers. And so, whilst we know that we are not able to reach every smallholder one by one, we are able to reach him nonetheless if we are able to identify him through a cluster that I have described. And that's what we have been able to do in Sterling Bank. We try to identify the associations, the cooperatives, the clubs as they are, and we then are able to work with them. The last mile engagement, of course, like my colleague has said, are made through the agencies that we have in place, the agent structures. Also, these actually run on a spoke and, hub and spoke approach. So we always try to look for our closest branch that is going to provide the requisite support to the last mile agent, and we're able to then move to participate, or to engage the farmers through those cooperatives. A little beyond that, what we have seen has helped us in fast-tracking this particular activity is the mutually beneficial engagement that we have had with Mexico, especially in the Northeast. They know these people. I've like always said, when you have an extension activity, it is not exactly the same thing as rural sociology. So an extension activity seeks to look for an economic activity or some form of activity going on somewhere, and you're able to say, okay, this is it. But rural sociology tends to understudy the behavioral pattern of a group of people, learn from them, and they are by that then able to come up with a structure that will be acceptable. And that's the reason why the applause must go to CMD for what they have done, the way they have engaged their target communities in such a manner that the right kind of finance, the right kind of structure that they will need to be able to gain access to finance. So we have had that collaboration with Mexico, and they have actually done well in hand-holding us to a number of such NGOs that have clusters of cooperatives in excess of over 80,000 smallholder farmers in that region. And we're working with them at various levels of closure to ensure that this is done and done well. Of course, all of this would not have been possible if we do not engage technology, we do not leverage digital solutions. Maybe just to wrap it up, I want to say that our own approach is, yes, there may not be that structure to engage formal finance, but there's always a provision at the agency level to create a wallet. And with the creation of the wallet, they're able to engage in basic financial inclusion activities. And by the time we get into business proper, and we're able to then cluster them, structure them, we can then upgrade them to the conventional account, the standard account opening, and they are then able to grow, from there. If we can actually record a measure of success in the GES program, I think that is in history. I mean, the data is there. Then I believe that the age of wallets are not over. The age of the use of USSD solutions are not over. And all of these are solutions that we have engaged in Sterling Bank to be able to reach the farmers. For us, we've done a little over 100,000 farmers under the Anchor Borrowers program. That's 70,000. We've been able to, of course, the drill of the Anchor Borrowers program. You will need to open an account. You will need to disburse to individual accounts. You need to register them on the National Collateral Registry. We've been able to do that. And then under the Sterling Women and Youth Agricultural Finance Program, Just under the 2 years of our operations, we've been able to dole out about 5 billion to over 12,000 farmers in that particular category. So that's what we've been able to do. It's work in progress, but then we could not have gone as fast as we have gone, especially in the Northeast region, without the very, very laudable support from Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Right.
And thank you for acknowledging that it's work in progress, because I could see Madam Edna looking your way. So I'm sure she'll want to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely.
And let me build on that, because you talk about bringing them to a point where they get to the conventional account opening process. I'm going to Madam Kippa, my friend, Oluwatomi. One of the challenges, as we all know, because we're all experts in quotes here, militating against access to finance for small businesses is a lack of basic business records, which I'm sure Mr. Shola or Dr. Shola thinks is very expedient, and we all know it's expedient. And business advice inventory to aid credit assessments by banks like his. Now, what opportunities are there to bridge this gap? And are there opportunities to embed such solutions into bank products to better improve the delivery of banking or financial services to vulnerable people?
Thank you very much. Looking at our product, Kippa, is actually a bookkeeping app. And as been mentioned by several speakers, we know that keeping records for the micro and SMEs is actually a challenge. One thing we first of all took is that it's not the bookkeeping application by other entities that is actually the competition, but the competition is that habit for micro and small businesses to keep records. You'll find that some of them have sales book, but how many of them actually record those sales, record their inventory in those books? So even if you talk to them in terms of insurance, the insurance company still needs you to keep inventory. What do you have in your store before the incident happened and all that? So what we have done is to come up with that product Kippa for SMEs and micro businesses to be able to record their sales, to be able to record their inventory, keep record of their customers, and also help them remind their debtors about the debts they are owing them. The product in itself is actually in terms of microservices. There are great opportunities, as we have seen, even in that space. Microservices such that when we develop these different solutions, we can actually integrate into the banking application. Thanks to the CBN on the recent open banking framework that was given. So there are different levels of entities that has been defined in that chain. And you can actually play with the bank in terms of partnership, in terms of them looking at securities that you have on your system, in terms of data protection, your processes and all that. So it's easy to embed the solution into the banking app. So what does that mean? I work with a bank and I'm able to give them, I don't want to use technical terms now, but like something you call API, and we integrate the two systems together, they talk. As the small businesses and micro businesses are entering their data, the bank can actually assess that data. Of course, we would have signed several things to ensure that there is data protection. And they can actually make use of that data when there is need for them to give access to those micro SMEs. So great opportunities for fintechs, but one thing we must know is that it's not the other fintech that is my competition, but the habits in that sector that we're looking at. How do we ensure that they leave that habit? And even if you have technology, you have a solution that can help to keep the records. How do we ensure that they still use? For us, we have over 500,000 downloads. In the last 12 months, we've been working with SMEs. However, about 380 are active on the platform. So what happened to the others that have dropped out? So it's still coming back to that habit of record keeping. So we try to incentivize. If you record your sales, we give you points, and you can actually use those points on the platform and also improve your business. Beyond that, we also do education in terms of you growing your business. So what does it mean? Separating the owner of the business from the business itself is also a major challenge that we had to deal with, and we're still dealing with it. So working with the banks, you are able to, bring them on board to maybe like the BVN enrollment, NIN enrollment, and once they have all that, they can actually like open maybe the last tier of business accounts, and that separates the owner from the business itself, and still, educating on what else they can actually have to be able to position their business in such a way that a bank or a lending entity can actually give you, finance. And that's all we're putting together. Working with the banks, yes. Working with other partners, yes, it's possible.
Thank you very much. So we now know that I never looked at it from that perspective, that the fact that I know that there's a book I read on habits. When you do something continuously for like 60 days, it becomes part of you. So when they learn to do that, keeping their records, it helps them, whether it's digital or brick and mortar. It's a process they have to understand to be able to prepare themselves for conventional banking. Thank you very much. And I come back to you, Madam Edna. Now with this that we know, I wonder, what is the impact of the various banking lending policies? Because Toyin has told us some of the things, and Mr. Dr. Olushola has told us some of the things, the key criteria that's very important that we must look at. And you shared some of your issues. Now, but what's the impact of the various banking lending policies within the space you operate in? I know you mentioned some, and it's heartbreaking. And what do you perceive are the barriers to the successful implementation of these policies? Because these policies are key, they're expedient, because we have to ensure that there's sanity in the sector. What to you, ma'am?
Thank you. I believe one of the things that we need to look at in terms of the effect has been the issue of subsidized interest for agriculture. Is it beneficial? Is it leading to the right people accessing these facilities? It's a laudable initiative, but in my opinion, I was told yesterday by one of the participants here, we shared a taxi from the vehicle from the airport, and he said most of the banks have declared 2022 as a year of recovery of agricultural loans. That I believe, in his words, Nassau Microfinance Bank is even declared they are not lending this year. So the question we then had a conversation about is, if this is a year of recovery and fertilizer is at its highest this year, how are farmers going to produce the food we need? So I think that's a discussion for this house. The second is the models available. On Friday, I was at a bank, and he told me, he said, Madam, fertilizer is a consumable. Can you give me a machine to finance? And I told him, sir, would that be a tractor or what would it be? Because I'm in the agricultural space. And in the end, we had to settle for, okay, you finance computers for us so that we can take the money we would have used for computers to then buy fertilizer. So some of the policies around lending that the banks have to deal with are impacting us. He also told me that, I'm sorry, the interest rate has gone up because the MPR has been increased. So again, finally, it ends up on the doorstep of the banks. So those are the things that we have to contend with. And in the end, the farmer is the one suffering. Lastly, I took a road trip last week going back from Abuja to Gombe. And on the way, most of the farms were yellow. And my other traveler kept saying, these farms need fertilizer. These farms need fertilizer. But sadly, that's the narrative. I hope this meeting can change that. Thank you.
Dr. Abraham, I'm going to put you on the spot now. How do we respond to Madam Edna on this? Because you work in her zone too.
Yes, thank you for that. I was very keen to see her after this meeting because the numbers she has stated and the challenges she has so mentioned.
Sorry, please, you can bring the mic closer so that we can hear you better. Thank you.
Thank you. So I was saying that the challenges that she has mentioned are exactly what Standard Microfinance Bank is doing in Adamawa State. We have partnership with many of the organizations that are already working with Mercy Corps, like Deva Access, like NEA, like so many others that have linked their customers to us, their beneficiaries to us to finance. And we have financed quite a number of them. So based on what you just mentioned now, even though based on central bank limitations, there are categories of licensing that allow like Standard Microfinance Bank to operate only within Adamawa State for now. But I believe CMD have some of those farmers in Adamawa State. And Standard Microfinance Bank will be more than willing to get linked to them to ensure that we finance them. And I think I want to tell you that you have met the right person. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Wow. I want to build up on what Toyin was talking about how she's working with the farmers to help their habit of bookkeeping. And I know that most farmers and micro businesses lack appropriate record keeping. We've agreed on that. And most of them have very low digital literacy because we are talking about disruptive technology. And you said about how many thousand?
Over 385 active.
Over 385 from the over 500 are active. And you use that for them to help maintain good records of their business transactions and able to access such transactions when needed. So how do you marry the low digital literacy to make this happen?
Okay, it's so good. From statistics we have seen, we know that 81% of the adult population actually has a mobile phone. Now, what is not broken down is what kind of mobile phone are these, devices. However, if you can use a mobile phone, then you can use our app. That's the truth. And in the product plan is also to have this app in the different major languages in the country. That's Yoruba, Hausa, and Igbo. However, when it comes to the payment side, we can have the app in the different languages. The industry still do not allow me to present receipts in local languages. So what then happens? The user can actually log all the sales and everything in the local language because it's easy, and they can actually read that. They can send their invoices in English, right? The customer pays using that invoice in English, but when it comes back to the system, it actually converts it to the local language of that user. So those are some of the things we're looking at. Also, is it possible to send SMS to a particular number? The system reads the content of the SMS and is able to log the transaction that this person has sent in. So those are things that we're looking at, and not leaving it all alone. We have license from the CBN to be able to have agent network. So through this agent network, we'll definitely have education going on at different level, ability to enroll these micro and small businesses on the platform, working with associations to also have them, and at the same time using the agent platforms or the agent locations as education center, awareness creation, centers for those people to be able to make use of the app and also be supported by those agents. So those are things that we have, but currently is in English, and as long as you can use a mobile phone, you can use the app.
Thank you very much. As long as I can use a mobile phone.
Yes, please.
Well, let me ask, how many of them can afford to buy mobile phones?
If the truth is, we're not, in the immediate, you can't cover the whole population.
Okay.
So it's like, I was watching a movie with my daughter, and I saw the old, the phone, the Nitel phone, where you have to dial round and round and round. And I said, oh, I remember this phone. And my daughter was like, how did you cope? I said, we didn't know better. So now that you have the mobile phone, she's thinking my life was, very hard in those days. Mommy, how do you then carry this and you're dialing number and all that? So it's the same way. It's a step at a time, right? And if we say that how many of them can afford mobile phones, can we start with those that can even afford? Let's see the story, because it's like if you create a story, you are able to have more people on board and they see the value. So the value has to be there for them to see. And that's why we're not saying from where we sit at the head office, we are creating that value. We have chains of agents we can actually use. Can they help us, to project this value, to ensure that these people see the value that they have, working with those associations, working with those groups, and I'm sure we'll go a long way. Again, we look at if investments, maybe in mobile phones, if we have entities that can actually, we partner with, and they can actually help to do that.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you. Tomi, back to you. The cashless policies of the CBN has attracted the interest of many banks and fintech companies like Kippa, as she has rightly shared with us, and they are now providing financial services through digital technology. But from your nationwide surveys, what measures are in place to increase digital financial literacy for the rural population who have little or no formal education, because I'm building up from what she said, and ensuring that they are protected from being exploited by financial institutions and tech operators?
Thank you. I think we need, she's mentioned financial literacy. She's mentioned financial literacy and digital literacy. We all need to be part of that process. The development partners, but institutions, financial service providers also need to lead on that as well. We were in a meeting where someone was talking about an Okada rider who wanted to move from that business into, Uber driving. And so he was saving, he had opened an account where I think it's a one account. So he was saving maybe very small amounts for the first time, because he had been doing that with his association and that had been working for him. But because he wants to save now in millions, he came to the bank. They encouraged him, open an account, a simple account. But what they didn't tell him is that if this account exceeds an amount, you will not be able to access it, right? So by the time he wanted, he had accumulated the money he wanted and he wanted to go buy his car to start his Uber business. Then they said, oh, you don't have the ID required. You don't have the documentation. So he lost on getting that car. And those are some of the things that, as providers, we need to take ownership for. Educating the users in terms of the kind of products that we have and how, what product works better. And I think that's one thing that's also lacking in industry is good understanding of our customer segments. Providers need to take stock of the data that they have, but we also need to work with industry data to better understand the segments that we have to serve them better, not just in terms of how we design the products, but also in terms of how we communicate and we provide the messaging to them. One thing that we find from the data is that a lot of people don't know what to do if they have a situation with a financial service provider. A lot of people just say, oh, I will do nothing, or I will go to the police. But they're not aware of the recourse mechanisms that are available to them. So we need to also make that available to the users and let them know what these things are. The CBN also have a framework for financial literacy, and we all need to jump on that framework and keep keep educating the users and letting them know what their rights are, what the services are, what options. I think something else that we also need to look out for is also the choices that people have to make. It's almost as if this is the product that we have. And I think we've said that today. I mean, customers, it's not a monolith, right? For farmers, there should be we should have products that speak to them, and those products should be in their language, in Hausa or in whatever language that they understand. So financial literacy for us is key, and we need to continue to drive that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Olushola. Let me build on what she said. You knew I was coming there. Because she talked about the importance of financial literacy, and then the importance of designing and communicating the product so that the customer will know how to and when to use it. So how is your bank leveraging on digital technologies to address these constraints, and to improve access to finance for smallholder farmers and businesses in the Northeast?
Thank you. I quite agree with you. I will line up directly behind her on the need for financial literacy, and I think it speaks to capacity building in that sense. What we have tried to do in deepening financial inclusion is to first and foremost start from what we know is predominant right now and still has a measure of impact, and that is the conventional channels of broadcast. So for us, we try to reach out to the farmers, the smallholders, by leveraging the use of an initiative we call the Farmer Radio. So we have the Farmers Radio. What we have done is we have taken airtime in strategic radio stations across Nigeria's geopolitical zones, and right there on that program, we try to reach out to the farmers, especially on issues around capacity building, information dissemination, best agronomic practices. Of course, then you talk to the more specific issues of how to access finance and all. So far, I think we've done that in 4 major languages, the Nigerian major languages of Yoruba English and Hausa, and of course Pidgin English. And this is what we are sustaining. We have plans in our pipeline to actually take it to a whole national level. Now, speaking to how we tend to leverage on technology, I spoke earlier about the 3 major inhibitions, inhibitors to really having the kind of impact that we want. I have spoken to access to finance, capacity building is in discussion, and then of course access to market is it. What we have tried to do is to make sure that maybe I will just talk to one of our products, then I'll come back to production. So access to market, we've realized that because of the harsh realities of demand and supply, the gaps that we have in our value chain, especially the infrastructural deficit, the farmer is unable to have the desired access to market. Access to market is not just the ability to sell your produce, but it confers on you the power to sell it at premium. Sterling Bank came up with a product that is leveraging digital technology. It's built on blockchain technology. We call it the SABEX platform. Now, SABEX platform is a digital trading platform that enables the farmer or the producer to come and meet directly with the off-taker or the buyer. And he is then able to have a direct engagement and negotiation, if you like, and is able to sell his produce at a premium. SABEX creates that enabling market for the farmer of whatever scale to be able to not just sell, but to also keep or to hold his product. We have various partnerships that we have engaged to be able to run this platform, critical of which are the storage facility managers. So a farmer is able to harvest his products and he goes on to SABEX. SABEX is web-enabled. You could actually create your own profile on that, and you try and log on and you say, okay, so I have about 20 tons, 10 tons of maize for sale, and you are able to then log it on. That particular platform directs you to the nearest storage facility where you are going to keep your product. But for the fact that you have registered your product and the price that you desire to sell on that platform, it is a buyers and sellers platform. It will be spotted. If negotiation is made, because there's a fee to it, and the farmer accepts, then the rest, like they say, will be history. He's able to then sell at a premium. And if the price is not as good, and he's probably concerned about storage, he needs not worry, because the storage facility that has been provided on SABEX is enough to actually help him to hold onto his produce. SABEX is up and running. I think so far we've had well over, I think it's a novel product. It's just running up and it's just running. We have over 500 or so transactions on that, and we are kind of fine-tuning it. But by the time it is out in full force, we'll be speaking to the keepers of this world, to try and see how their API can speak to our API, and we are then able to get the necessary data to be able to fine-tune this kind of initiative. That's for market. In primary production, we also engage the services of monitoring and evaluation firms. That's apart from what the bank does directly. We leverage these services from these third parties. And what we try to look for from these partners is the ability to leverage technology, remote sensing. I think like the president from Pula said, for us to be able to actually have an online real-time information on what is going on right there on the field. And so we're able to geotag, we're able to geomap, we're able to have the sophistication of even testing for soil facility, water content. We're able to know the kind of pest that is there and the kind of solution that is required, all online real-time through remote sensing. And we have a couple of them already in our books. We are deploying them, and I can tell you that success has been great. With technology coming in at the production segment and the access to market that we have provided, I think the sky is the limit. We're able to really garner our speed, and we're also able to be a lot more accurate in the engagement of these individual farmers, of course, with greater success. So disruptive as it is, I think that is the ultimate for us, leveraging technology in the manner that we have done, and of course, in other innovative ones to come, to be able to really reach to that. So SABEX is working. M&E, engagement services, are also working, as well as a couple of other things. And I will also say that the cooperation from stakeholders is the critical enabler for the success of the technology. So if there had been no Mercy Corps, for example, or Feed the Future, or probably a Thrive Agric that we know takes up stuffs on a Babanguna, like we mentioned them, we're able to identify the market for the farmers, especially the ones that do not have an offtake option. All of these leveraging technology, and we're able to then conduct what I would call a back-to-back, closed-circuit, very safe lending. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Right.
Thank you. Should I do bank-to-bank now, Mr. Kudzai? So it doesn't look as if you're competing here. Said this, what are you going to tell us? But we also realize that stringent collaterals and guarantee requirements are amongst the key challenges faced by farmers in accessing credit facilities from banks. But it's the same thing I really want to know too, that how can you use, how can you leverage, how is your bank leveraging on digital technology to address these constraints too, and improve access to finance for smallholder farmers and businesses in the Northeast?
Yeah, thank you. I think the problem of stringent collateral requirements emanate from the fact that central banks and governments are there to protect depositors' funds that are in banks, such that those depositors' funds are not lost. That's why there's a requirement that the banks have got to demand collateral from those clients whom they lend to. Having said that, there is need to make sure there is access to finance to smallholder farmers. We all know that they are the engine room for agriculture, especially in Nigeria. They supply most of the products that are used for processing into food and byproducts, and also for exports. If these farmers do not receive finance, there is going to be declining productivity in the country. And you also see inflation also being worsened, because if there is a declining productivity and the demand stays where it is or actually increase because of population growth, then we'll see a lot of inflation coming in. But banks are now using a number of technologies to make sure there is access to finance despite the problems that are there for smallholder farmers. Smallholder farmers in Africa mostly are on land which they do not have title to, which they can approach a bank and offer that land as collateral to borrow. That's why we are here. That's why we have to do business unusual. And business unusual, I mean we have to be innovative to enable ourselves to unlock financing for farmers. And it's not just financing. We want quality financing that goes to the farmers. We want relevant financing that goes to the farmers. So it's not just giving money to the farmer, but giving money to the farmer that in itself becomes impactful, that solves the farmer's problems. The farmer, for me, does not really require financing. What they need are enabling things like fertilizers, chemicals, access to labor for them to be able to harvest, to plant, so that at the end of the day, they've got a product which they can sell at a profit and themselves earn a living. So money in itself is a vehicle towards them accessing products and services. Therefore, as banks, we are trying to make sure that financing goes to the farmers through our partners. As Shola indicated, Dr. Shola indicated, the likes of Babangona, Thrive, they they offer fertilizer, chemicals, and other services to them for them to be able to produce. And we work with these partners in a way that unlocks financing to the smallholder farmers without the need for the farmer to put in collateral. The aggregators unlock that financing for them. It's a win-win situation where the farmer has access to inputs, the aggregator has got access to the product when the farmer is finished farming. The banks are able to give finance in a way that is less risky. And we are seeing that unlocking a lot of value for the farmers, unlocking a lot of value even for suppliers, unlocking a lot of value even for the ultimate buyers and processors of these commodities. We believe that's the way to solve the problems that we are facing in Africa, where the smallholder farmer cannot provide the collateral required. But we are also seeing the digital space unlocking a lot of value. For instance, this is available not just to smallholder farmers, but also to people who are banking with us. If you dial, let's say, your *329#, and you've got an account with FCMB, you can apply for a loan. And if the algorithm grants you a loan within 5 minutes, you can have that loan. So we believe when the farmers are financially included, they will be able to have a digital footprint which they can then use in future to access finance, because then their account will speak to the bank's algorithm, which will enable them to unlock financing. But the beauty about what I said using the other aggregators is they unlock a lot of services which they would actually have been able to get only at a very costly manner. If you have an aggregator that procures fertilizers in bulk, chemicals in bulk, and they deliver those things to the farmer, that will enable the farmer to access these things, one, in a quality that they are assured of, and also in a way that enables them to get these at a cheaper rate, at the appropriate time, and in a way that enables them, because they also layer extension services, in a way that they enables the farmer to use these chemicals and fertilizers in a way that produces the best result. So we believe that's the way to go. We believe banks can use these outgrower models, these aggregators, these digital platforms to unlock financing. But I believe also that governments in Africa needs to enable the smallholder farmers to use the land that they hold as collateral for them to be able to access financing. I think that's a policy issue that can be discussed on another day. But as I said, we are trying to do business unusual by being innovative, using digital platforms, using outgrower models to unlock financing for smallholder farmers.
Thank you very much, sir. So one thing I hear is *229#. That's number one. So that we as farmers can have our digital footprints in your bank. Madam Edna, I hope you've heard that. So we'll start from that, and we'll make sure we dutifully aggregate in clusters so that we have a face, which is very important. Thank you very much. But let me ask again. I'm coming back to you, Madam Edna. So now, based on from all the laudable ideas which are working that our bankers have proposed, what else do you think we should add to help the financial inclusion process by commercial banks and the CBN?
The question is to me?
Yes.
Okay. I think I'm aware of almost everything that has been said by this panel. And over tea, Standard and I also had a conversation as to why we didn't take up their products. But in a summary, I think it boils down to the perception of value that the association or the cooperative or the NGO brings to the table. If we recognize that it does have value, then I think our financial partners need to give that value some level of recognition and a value to it. Because in the proposed agreements with two of the financial institutions, one of the things we asked for was marketing tools, flyers, account openings. Those are things that normally the bank will produce for marketing. If I'm to be able to be a partner to them, they need to give me those tools. Secondly, this USSD code I was given today, if I had it in October, we won't be having this conversation, because 1,400 of my members have your bank account, sir, but nobody told me this code. Nobody has mentioned it in all the meetings we've had. And I kept saying, we can start from these ones that are already banking with you. That's the lowest hanging fruit. I think thirdly, we need to recognize that, for instance, Standard wanted me to take on the risk that if they do not pay, then CMD will pay.
I'm going to round up.
We will do the activities.
I'm not finishing
The
it.
customers will open with them. Then the customers will pay them. And if they default, is when CMD now comes in. It's not a good business deal for CMD. If we're going to be partners, let's be partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I believe we're going to have some meetings at the end of this session. We don't have so much time, so I'm sure we'll have discussions with some of our partners as we sit for lunch. So let me do this. I'm so sorry. I was just informed that we don't have so much time, but I think we can take some questions. I'm sorry about that. My apologies, please. Sorry. Could we take questions from the audience? Who's with the mic? We have questions.
Thank you. I'll be brief. My question goes to Dr. Oluwatomi, and that will be with respect to one of the comments you made. I'm a learner here, so I don't have so much experience working in the Northeast. But one thing you said was religion is not really one of
Hello? Could you please just introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry. My name is Tomisin Odumbaku. I work with the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition. I'm the acting national coordinator for the Sun Business Network, Scaling Up Nutrition Business Network. So I'll go with the question. And you said religion is not a major factor in this inclusion conversation. But I just want to maybe ask the audience or the panelists to clarify some things. I am aware that to some extent it is considered a crime or a sin to receive or give money with interest in the Islamic religion. And so if this is the case, how is it then possible that we say it is not a problem for people to, say, I want to collect loan that has interest no matter how flexible it is? And also to point it back to one of the presentations we've had, I think it's Toby Isaiah, who said that from the data that we have, the Northeast has 50% of exclusivity and the Southwest has the most number. If you will agree with me, we understand that the percentage of people in the Southwest are mostly Christians, and then those in the Northeast are mostly of the Islamic religion. So is there any data or anything you've done that can bring this out? I just want to have that clarification. Thank you.
Okay, let's take all the questions and then the panelists will take the answers.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Dalami Arab Sukujay. I'm the president of Jewel Entrepreneurship and Business School. Let me start by saying that if you pardon me, I will be a little bit more undiplomatic because we've done nice discussions. I wish central bank was on the panel, and like the Yorubas will say, I don't know whether we can shave their head in absentia. But we talk about funds, getting to the smallholder.
I'm sorry, sir. Could you raise your voice? We can't hear you up here.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I said I wish CBN was on the panel and it would have become more realistic. I have rice farmers who seek money for rice farming, but they don't belong to refund. So Sterling Bank gives rice farmers who belong to refund funds at 5% and 9%. But the other smallholder rice farmers who do not belong to refund cannot get money. If they do, they cannot get it at the rate that members of refund are getting. Where is the money that your Sterling Bank is giving to refund coming from that they cannot give other rice farmers? All of them are on 1 hectare each. The market system is distorted completely because we have a referee who occasionally does not only become a player but own a club, and he can change the rules. What kind of discussion are you having with the central bank genuinely to say let's have a market system so that we can actually know what is the cost of funds? National Microfinance Bank comes fantastic. We can give money at 5%, and you have a huge number of people applying. They can't meet up. You go to Standard Microfinance Bank. They don't have the kind of money that National Microfinance Bank has, and they are all microfinance banks. So it confuses the farmers. We're into capacity building. We do all the things that the bank expects the farmers to know. They do the documentations. And then the farmer says, okay, fine, this product that we have, there's no longer money in it. So we are suspending until we get money back. Growing up, I used to hear things like the customer is king. But it's only the farmer who is, I think the best description is a beggar with no choice. Most of the monies that farmers are taking are not money they would want to take if they had options. And for those of us who are into business development services, we sometimes feel guilty that you are asking somebody to take money that you wouldn't want to take yourself. But it tells you that, well, if I don't take this one, there is nowhere for me to get it. Some people strip other assets to refund loans. Finally, or maybe almost second to finally, I know the banks for a fact, if they had 5 billion naira for agri, would rather give 5 people who take 1 billion naira each than give it to 10,000 smallholder farmers who need 500,000 naira each. Because I am told that the cost of managing 1 billion naira facility is the same as the cost of managing 500,000 naira facility. Can we be honest with ourselves? Or is it when there's no food for all of us to eat? So we need to be deliberate and need to be open to each other. No matter how much Standard Microfinance Bank says he can give us money, he knows what we're going through. If he had money, he would not ask us to guarantee money he's going to give farmers. If I can do that, if I have that kind of collateral, I'll take the money myself and stop teaching people. I'm going to open a bigger farm. What is the position of money for agriculture? Honestly, no diplomacy. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lami Mohammed Kwame. I'm the BOT Chair of Modern Development Initiative from Gombe State. My NGO happened to be the implementing partners with Mexico on the Feed the Future Rural Resilience activity. We are currently working with Sterling Bank to get the sway product for our women farmers. They gave us offers for about 413 women to farm 1 hectare each. But as I'm talking to you now, only 97 got the, in fact, we've not received the money yet, and the raining season is almost gone. I want to ask Sterling Bank, is it next year's raining season that they want to give the women the sway product, or is it this year? Because we don't have time. And in all the papers presented, time is key. We don't have time to collect money at the end of July to plant maize in Gombe, Adamawa, Yobe, and Borno states. Please, Sterling Bank, tell us how these sway products can help our women farmers, because we are currently out of time. We are thinking of maybe next year, not this year again. Thank you.
Hello, hold it. Thank you very much. Please, can I get my mic for a moment?
The last one.
Sterling Bank, you want to respond to some of those challenges coming up?
We have 3 charges.
Okay, so thank you very much.
Can I receive my microphone, please?
So I think I have just two major issues here. From the gentleman who spoke to the issues around the rice farmers, and of course our esteemed customer from Mother Hen Foundation. So maybe I would just be very curt about the issue on the rice. Sir, let's go back to CBN. I think you are right. They should have been on this panel. Anchor Borrowers Program comes with a guideline. And that is a guideline that we as participating financial institutions adopt as our product. We are lying, and we have to, because of compliance. We must comply with the things that they have said. So, if we have variants of that particular product that requires certain, certain conditions, we will need to comply. Let me give you an instance. So we had an expression of interest submitted for a particular client of ours, and we got a response because we kind of waived a couple of conditions. And we got a response that, sorry, what you guys have done is a little bit high on the other side. You will need to insist on these conditions. By the time we got to the client to say, okay, these are the conditions, the deal was off the table because it is clear that the customer will not be able to take it on. So we will continue to have this talk and this conversation, and I'm happy to engage in a 3-way conversation. We can reach the relevant officials in CBN, and let us see how we can address this more squarely. Thank you very much.
Sorry, to add to this, Dr. Chichi would like to make a response to, as a representative of CBN.
Oh, CBN is there?
Yes, to the issue of the refund.
Cool.
Rice farmers.
Thank you.
Don't shave my hair, I'm here. Yes, you did mention that the loans don't get to those that are not part of the Apex Association, right? The question is, why will somebody run away from the Apex Association? For example, why will a bank, commercial bank, not have a license from central bank before it gets into operation? That bank is trying to avoid compliance. If you want to be in line with financial inclusion, and probably you are into rice production, you should be part of Apex Organization of Rice Association. It helps compliance, monitoring, and evaluation. You did mention that monitoring of bigger loans, you did say something like that, monitoring of bigger loans and smaller loans. It costs a lot to monitor small loans, and it costs less when they are in cluster. It saves the bank a lot of money to go to a place and see lots of farmers, and the person will do the due diligence to ensure that those farmers have plots of land. To be honest with you, this is my over 30 years in central bank. I have put in at least 15 years in development finance department. I've been in a situation where I have gone on a field trip. The person I was going to see his farm took us to the bush. There was no farm. There was no farm. And if you don't have that diplomacy to be very smart, you pretend as if you are playing along. If you dare to prove that there's no farm, I won't recommend it, you could be killed. You could be killed, yes. You just play along and go back and do your report. So why will a rice farmer be afraid to belong to Apex organization, which is REFA? That is a question for you to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chichi. Thanks for your contribution.
Please, just a moment. Gloria, thank you so much. I understand that, just a moment, Gloria. We have the representative of the Director of Consumer Protection from the Central Bank of Nigeria, Andrew Eyidengan. Mr. Andrew Eyidengan, could you just raise your hand? Okay, please, could you, let's get a microphone to him. Yeah. You're very welcome, sir. We appreciate it. We'd like to hear you.
Thank you very much. My name is Abubakar Alibasu. I'm actually representing the Director of Consumer Protection Department. I would just say a word or two regarding what we're doing around financial literacy, digital financial literacy, and consumer protection. I remember, please permit me to sit so that I don't block people behind me. Now, I remember Madam was talking about the survey they did, and someone said, I'm scared of taking a loan. I noted that. Someone also said, some people also answered, we don't want to take loans. And also to the point from the speaker, the gentleman that spoke about cultural barriers, religious barriers, and so on. I think it all revolves around depth of awareness, absence of awareness. First of all, regarding financial literacy, and then also the services available both at the bank's end and also at the end of the CBN that are available to consumers. Thank God Mrs. Eromosele spoke about the National Financial Literacy Framework that we're implementing. It's a framework that, in line with best practice, articulates a multi-stakeholder approach. In Hausa, there's always this adage about the fact that when you are frying dambu, what they call dambu nama, and you have just a handful, of groundnut oil to use to fry the dambu nama, it will be too much for that groundnut oil. What am I saying in essence is that space where a country of about 200 million people, 36 states with FCT, the best approach for financial literacy is a multi-stakeholder approach. Everybody has to be there. And one thing I can assure you is that the most strategic way, the best way you can get people included is not driving out the products. It's about giving them the awareness, empowering them with the knowledge, to have that confidence to even come up. Someone said, I'm afraid to take a loan. It's a confidence issue. Thank God, Mexico partnered with us. Mexico had inputs when we were developing the National Financial Literacy Framework, when we were developing the financial education curriculum for schools. I'm happy to say that by God's grace, by the beginning of next session, it was the advent of the corona crisis that prevented the takeoff. But by next academic session, we are hoping that financial education will be taught in schools from primary school to secondary school. Yes, digital is the way to go. It's not even the promise it holds. It's just the way to go. We can't run away from it. But then we have challenges here. We have to run for now, side by side, digital and other means for financial literacy until we get there. What I would suggest is, I see a lot of people that are interested in financial inclusion here. Perhaps we can begin to foster partnerships around how we can drive financial literacy. Conversations have already started around translating into local languages. I remember meeting a Mexico staff, an American, who was speaking Hausa better than I could speak, me that is from Kano. So perhaps when we have people like that partnering with us, we'll be able to put all these our local languages on the digital platforms and speak. I would also like to mention that if you have any issues with your financial institution, please don't hesitate. The CBN has presence in all the states of the Federation. You can walk into any CBN branch and lodge your complaint, one. You can also do a letter to the CBN, drop at the branch, or post it to the Director, Consumer Protection Department of the CBN. You will have your matter listened to. We also have the hotlines, 0700 call CBN. Please note this because usually we like to say so that when you do 0700 call CBN, it will just, once you go to your phone and you look at your keypad, you see where C is. So C is 2. So 0700 call CBN is 0. Can someone help me translate? 070 C is 2. Then A is 2 again. Then L is 5. And then the second L is also 5. And then C is a 2. B is 2. And then N is 6. So do you have it now? Do you have it now? I saw you writing it. 0700. Is it 22?
2255. Then 226.
Exactly. So please take note of that. And then the email address where you can drop your complaint is CBN. CPD. CPD is Consumer Protection Department. CPD at cbn.gov.ng. But please note that by our regulations, it is mandatory that institutions must listen to complaints from their customers as first responders. So the institutions, you can first of all lodge your complaint at the institution. They will give you a tracking number with which you can track how they are treating your complaints. And we have SLAs within which they must treat your complaints. And if you are not happy, please don't hesitate. Come to CBN. We'll look at it and we'll make sure the complaints are resolved. Like I said, a lot to say, but please, let's try and see how we can foster partnerships around driving financial inclusion, financial literacy, digital financial literacy for deepening financial inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please, we are managing time. I'd like to appeal to you. We will like to still have your questions. Our ushers are here. I think pens were passed across earlier, so please write down your questions and hand over to them, and we'll find time to review them in our next session. For now, I'd like to invite our country director of Mercy Corps Nigeria on to the stage for a group photograph with our panelists.
No.
Yes, sir. Please, a round of applause for him. They are the organizers of this great event that we are all participating in, trying to bring financial inclusion to a group of Nigerians who have been excluded. Where are the photographers? Ayo and Co. Where is the media? Come on. Mark, where is Ayo, your partner, with his camera? We appreciate you, our panelists. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Yes, sir. Wait, let me direct that. I don't think we are standing very properly. So many ladies to the side. I guess the ladies. No. Sir, you yes, please, you can switch, change in places. Sir, please, you have to stay here, I guess. That is correct. All right, okay. I shouldn't be that short, man.